Hi, thank you so much for your time. So in this session, I'm going to share with you how to use Studio One Prime to record your short jingle. For those of you who have not installed Presonus Studio One Prime, this is absolutely free software that you can download from Presonus website. I have another videos that talk and teach you and walk through with you how to install Studio One Prime for both the user on Windows and also the Mac users as well. So you can check it out. All right. Now, today I am going to use an example, a short jingles that I've actually pre-written. So these are some of the amazing students that we actually had a lesson earlier. So they gave me some single words and I run through Gemini's and then come up with this and I tweak a little bit. So we gotta write a short jingles with virtual instruments, built-in virtual instruments directly from Studio One Prime, and then added in my voice on this jingle. Raindrops falling from the skies, but don't you fret, don't you cry. Roses are red, are blooming bright, filling up the world with your smile. Pretty flowers, pretty faces, lift your head up and slap high five. All right. So I have not really think about the melodies or whether it's gonna be a rap sound and all that. So later we just gonna look at it. All right. So I'll do it on the fly. Now let's get started. So when you change and when you launch the Studio One Prime, so let me just create the file first, Jingle 2. Okay. Now over here, I will leave the sample rates as 48. Now the time base, I would strongly suggest that you change to bars so it is easier. Okay, the length is pretty much less than 1 minute. It's just basically a few bars only. Hit OK. Now what you see over here is Studio One Prime. Okay, now so the first thing we need to do is to create the tracks. Okay, so you need to think about how many instruments you need. So in this case, I'm gonna have a drum, I'm gonna have a bass, I'm gonna have a piano, a pad, and a guitar, and my voice. Okay, 6. So I'm gonna show you how to create this really simple, easy, and fast. Okay, now first thing first, let me zoom in for you so that you can see. Okay, so this is Studio One Prime. All right, so let me zoom in for you on the left top. Okay, so in these sections you will see a plus, which is add tracks. The other one, which is global track visibility, when you click on it, you can select the arranger, the markers, the ruler, etc, etc. I have another videos that I talk about how to use the arranger track to help you build your track sequence or your songs sequence, so you can also refer to that later on. Now let's create a track first. First thing, I need to add some tracks over here. So let me just show you. Okay, so there are 3 portions: audio, instruments, and automation. So today we are going to look at only the audio part and the instrument. So the first instrument I need to create is drum. So count is just 1 track. Let me pick the color. Let's do purple. Okay, so now I have a drum track. Now this drum track, we don't have any sound yet because I have not selected the virtual instruments. We'll do it later. Okay, so let's just create the track first. So Studio One, then now I want to have my second instruments, which is the bass. So let me choose the color. Let's go for pink and click OK. The third one, I'm gonna have a pad. So in this case, I'm gonna choose yellow and hit OK. Now the next one, okay, let me just move it over so that you can see. Now piano, okay, and then I give it a color green. Okay, green. So now I have 4 tracks of instruments. Let me have another one, which is my guitar. So I go over to the audio. Okay, so the audio track over here, the audio tab, and I put in acoustic guitar. So let me just choose light blue. So because I'm using an audio interface, then I will choose the input as my left input. Okay, so this is my acoustic guitar. The next one is the last one, which is my vocal. Let me move over so that you can see. So vocals, also same thing, one track. And let's make it baby blue. So next is the right input for me. Click OK. So now we have all the tracks ready. Now I'm going to show you how to add the instruments. So over here on the right, you will see the instruments and you will see effect tabs, etc, etc. Now, what you need to do if you don't see this is you can navigate to the bottom right of your computer and you will see a browse tab over here. So click on the browse tab and these sections will appear. Okay, now let me zoom out a little bit and zoom in on the top. So over here you can select different instruments. So when you click on the instruments, it actually goes to the instrument tab, and over here you should be able to see Presonus, Presence, and when you drop down Presence, you should see the artist instruments. So when you drop down further, you can see all the different instruments over here. So the steps is really simple. Choose the instruments that you want. These are all virtual instruments. That means it is not a real instruments. It's a MIDI virtual instruments that trigger using the either external MIDI keyboard or the computer QWERTY keyboard. Alright, so I'm going to show you both ways. Next is to show you how to do it. So let's start with the drum track first. Okay, so let me navigate to drum kit, drop down. Let's have a hip hop kit. I just click and drag and put it over to the track. Then from here you will see a plugin open up. First thing I need to do is to change the name so that I'm not confused. So how to change the name is, let me zoom in. You go to here, presence, click on rename. So I'm gonna rename to drum. Okay, now the rest basically is the same, so I will just do it quickly for the sake of the time. So the next one I'm going is to select the bass. So the bass, I will choose the bottom 101. Same thing, click, hold and drag and put it over to the track. So same thing, the second tab opens up. Let me zoom in a little bit so that you can see the difference. So over here you can see there is a drum, there is number 2, presence. The 2 means track number 2. Okay, so presence, let me change and rename that to bass so that I know which track represent what instruments. So the next thing is, I'm going to zoom out. After the bass, we are going to choose pad. So pad, I will navigate to synth. So this synth, let me choose an interesting synth. Okay, let me see which one is good. Let's try the Soul synth or maybe Oxygens. Let's try. Maybe we try Oxygens. So we can later change if we don't like. So just pull and drag over. Change the name. Pad. Okay, next is piano. So piano, I need to collapse, go to keyboards. So let's find a very cool piano sound, maybe a rock piano or rock organ. Let's try the rock piano first. Okay, so let's drop it and then presence, rename piano. Okay, so I've chosen all the instruments. Let me just close this browse and let me just zoom in a little bit to show you. Okay, so with all these instruments, having all these instruments selected, so let's go through one by one. So let's start with drum first. Okay, so drum, from here I can actually have a drop down under my hip hop kit. If I don't like, I can actually drop. So when I choose the instruments, I can of course tweak all these parameters, but because this is a Studio One Prime version, some of the parameters may not be available, but that's okay. So today what we are focusing is mainly generating the sound, different instruments, and then record our voice, okay, so that you know how basic workflow is like on Studio One. Now, the next thing, I'm gonna audition the sound by clicking the bottom keys, okay? So I can click it manually just to audit the sound. If I have a external keyboard, of course, I can also do that, all right? So I have a launch key keyboard. From here, I can also use that, okay? So I like the sounds cool, okay? Moving on to the bass. I can select the bass over here on the top, and let's try the bass. How does it sound? Sounds cool, okay? The third one, which is the pad. Wow, I don't really like that. So let me choose another sound. So I can do a drop down. So from here, I can actually change and choose the sound that I like. So let me choose the Silk Veil. Let's try this. Again, I can press this. No, not so. I need something cooler. Do you know? Sounds okay. And then I can actually tweak a little bit on the attack time. Okay, I'll share with you a little bit more about this attack thing in future, but let me just do this. Okay, sounds alright. Let me increase it a bit. Okay, alright, I'm good with that. Let's go to the last one, which is the piano. Maybe not this one. Let's see if we have other cooler ones. JX organ. Oh no, I don't like this. Okay, let's try the other one. Let's see, what do we have? Funk Master. That's so nice. Okay, let's try the other ones. Maybe let's do Rock O Roma. Sounds okay. I can actually increase the drive a little bit and the punch a little bit, okay, and change the filter style. We'll learn this next. Okay, lower a little bit on the drive. Okay, it's a little loud, but that's fine. Later we can further tweak it. Alright, so this is my piano sound. Okay, so now I'm gonna show you how to actually record that using two different triggers. So one is the original trigger using your QWERTY keyboard. So when you press the cap lock on your keyboard, you will see this pad comes out, right? So this is actually a keyboard. Okay, so you can see. Okay, let me zoom in a little bit so that you can see. So from here you can see Q, W, E, R. So that actually correlate to your keyboard on the computer, right? So 2 and 3 is the numbers. So this serves like a keyboard. Okay, so if you see from below, the moment you press your key, you will be able to see. Let's say I press the T, you see over here the T actually grayed out to show you this actually correlates to the key. Now from here, how come I only hear tick tick tack tack sound, right? So because on these keyboards, okay, so you will have C1, C2, different octave of keys. Now you only see 1 octave, 1.5 probably, right? So to do that, whether you want to increase or you want to reduce the octave, you can press the left right keys over here. So let's say I want to decrease. Alright, this is the sound that I need. Okay, so it's within the key. So let's use this. Alright, so this is one way. The other way is, of course, use your external keyboard So in this case, because I'm using the launch key keyboard, so I can actually trigger directly from my external keyboard. Okay, so in today's, for the sake of most of you, maybe you may not have the external keyboard. I will try to use the QWERTY keyboard to show you. Of course, later on, I will also use the external keyboard to show you the trigger. So let's use the QWERTY keyboard first, okay? Now, next, what we need to do is to record. Now, let me just zoom out a little bit. Now, before we do the recording, one more step, okay? Very important step is to determine how fast or how slow is your song or the jingle. So in this case, I want to go for 100. Okay. Now, the next thing is I need to trigger the metronome to keep the timing. Let me zoom in. So these are, the setting is at the bottom. Okay. So this triangle is metronome. Beside the triangle icon, you will see a spanner. This is actually a setup for the metronome. So if you see from here, I want to have a pre-count 2 bars so that it keeps me prepared. And then before that, so when I click on the space bar, I can hear 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so it can be any beat, any tempo, as long as you liked it, and I don't have a problem. So, okay, so choose your own tempo. Okay, now next is also another important thing. Let me zoom in a little bit. On top there is this IQ, right? So input quantize. What does it mean? Sometimes it's difficult for us beginners to keep time, especially if we are using the computer keyboard. So what we need to do is basically to tell the system, and whatever that I click, I want to quantize it 16th note. Okay, even if I'm off a little bit, automatically adjust for me. Okay, so later you will see the magic. Okay, so now I think we are all set and we are all ready to go. So let's try to record. Now, good thing about the MIDI instrument is that when you record, you don't have to do a full drum and the instruments with all the parts, because you can overlay and do it one by one, one by one, one by one. Okay, so this is the amazing things about the MIDI instruments. Okay, so for drums, I can do with whichever I like first. So maybe in this case, I want to start with the kick first. Okay, the kick first. So let me try that. Okay, so let's do a kick first. I want to start on the bar number 2. Okay, bar number 2, so that I leave a little space for that. So I will just move my cursor to bar number 2 and hit the record button. 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, so if you think that this is still a little bit too rushed for you, you can always start at bar number 1. Okay, so let's try again. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. You can see system is snapping for me, even though it is not. Okay, stop by pressing the spacebar. Now, let's listen what I have done. Okay, sounds okay. Okay, so obviously this is wrong, right? Off the beat. So how do I adjust? It's very simple. Double click on the track, then the MIDI editor will open up for you. So let me just zoom in a little bit, so at the bottom, so that you can see what's going on. Okay, so over here you will see all this individual note. You can see that it's actually quite good. Okay, so many things are on time, except this one. All right, so what I'll need to do is to highlight them and then move them to the front. Okay, that's all. So it's on time, perfect. Okay, So you see this one, it's also because it snaps to the 16th. So if I press it wrongly, it's actually snapping to the front earlier. I can then move it over, click and drag. So the rest are pretty much in time. This one also wrong, and the rest are okay. Okay, so now I have done the kick. Okay, I want to do the snare. Okay, so how do I do it? Same thing. I can start again. Okay, W. Okay, so same thing. I have, because I use the input quantize, most of them are fine except one, this guy, right? I think so. Okay, so now I want to do hi-hat. So what should I do with the hi-hat? So let's find the hi-hat. Okay. Okay, so this is a hi-hat, right? So let's do this. Okay, so as you can see, these are pretty much in time except one, I think one note. Okay, so this one is off. I just put it back and I am a perfect drummer so far. Okay, because I can adjust all these. Okay, so now it's pretty much okay. Okay, one note got problem, right? So let's see where goes wrong. Okay, this one is also not in time. Okay, so pretty much we have done what we need to do for the drum, but now you can see the problems over here. This is pretty much quite monotonous, especially if you're talking about the hi-hat. Oh my goodness, this is so monotonous. Okay, so how do we change that? Now let me show you a magic. Okay, so the magic is that we can select this and change the velocity. So velocity is at the bottom. Let me zoom in for you to see. So you can see the selected note over here, and below the velocity is also being highlighted over here. So usually is loud, soft, loud, soft. So what we can do is, of course, lower down the length. Of course, you can say that, wow, that's a lot to do, you know. So what we can do is like this, okay? You can either do this, and then you select this, and you select this. Hold on. Okay, so you can do this, lowering down, okay? And you can also lowering down this. Okay, so now you hear. Okay, so this one I can go even lower. Okay, I can go even lower. Right, now to do this, it's a little bit painful because imagine I have done one bar only. What if I've done so many? All right, so there could be a better way to do that. Of course, if you are doing drawing one by one, the fastest way is to duplicate. Okay, so you can actually do this. Let me just select all this until the end. Okay, all these I've selected. Okay, I cancel it, backspace, clear all. So what I need to do is the front, I will select them all, and I can copy and paste, or I can duplicate them. So I show you both ways. To do by duplicating, you select these notes, hold alternate in your PC, options on your Mac, click and hold, and then drag on your mouse, and voila! Immediately you have another done exactly the same. All right. Okay, so this is how we can actually do the by duplicating. You can also do a copy, same thing, the Wonder shortcut, Command C for Mac, Control C for the Windows user. Move the cursor over to the new bar, do the Command V or Control V for the Windows user, same thing, 8. And then voila, we are done. Voila, voila. All right, so the last notes, actually, I'm thinking maybe we should do clash. What do you think? Okay, yeah. So to do that, I can also draw. I just press the Control for Windows, Command for Mac. You will see a pencil tool, and then you click on the notes that you want to draw. So this one, I can move over. Okay, so this is my crash. So how this sounds like? Okay, let's hear it. Okay, right. So of course, I can also do a tom row. Okay, so let's say for example, I want to do a tom row. Okay, so it's D, C, and then yeah, D, C, and G, right? So what I do is same thing. So this one I can actually draw. Okay, so I can draw. So let's say we start from here. Okay, so let's have a listen. I think we need to adjust. Okay, so let's take out the hi-hat, take out the snare. So it sounds like this. Okay, so now we have done with our drum. So let's have a listen without the metronome. Okay, simple. Next, let's move on to bass. Now let's decide what kind of sound that we want. So okay, so this is kind of low. Maybe I want to do it slightly higher. Okay, so a little loud. Let me just reduce the volume a little bit. So how do I do that? Okay, let me zoom it out so that you can see. Okay, so this is bass. I can lower the volume by going here and just lower down the volume. Okay, so let's do a C, A minor, F, and G. Okay, so same thing. Let's start with bar 1. So C, maybe it's a little, okay, so I can draw, definitely I can draw. I can also use this. So let's do C and then C, A, and then F, G. Okay. Okay, so let's do it. Okay, now let's double click. Let's find out if there's anything that is giving me problem. So far, this is the one that we need to tweak a little bit. I can lengthen the note if I want to. I can shorten them. Okay, so far so good. Okay, now not much problem, but I just want to lengthen a little bit. But because I've actually quantized it at 16, so I will have a little bit of problem. So let me just change this to 32 so that I can lengthen further. Okay, so shorten this a little bit. Okay. All right, so let's hear it from the beginning. Okay, so in between you hear some additional noise is just because I'm editing the velocity, which is the volume on the fly, so you hear some unwanted noise, but it doesn't affect the recording. Okay, now let's move on to pad quickly. Pad. Okay, so how does our pad sounds like? Okay, so I need this to be a higher octave. Again, it's a little too loud. I can lower the volume, no problem. Okay, now let's try. Okay, so this one we have a bit of work to do. Okay, so let's see. Okay, this is a little too front, right? So let me just move it over a little bit further. Okay, this is the same thing. Now, the reason why sometimes you may have problems, like for example, when you moved over to the exact beat, okay, it doesn't generate the sound. That means you still hear delay because of the attack. So in this case, you can move the bar slightly forward. That it's fine. This is quite common for pad actually, because pad sometimes will have a little bit of delay because of the attack time, right? So let me just make some adjustment on the sound. So I want this to have a little bit of drive. Okay, and then let's add a little bit of resonant. piano. Let's go to the piano. Okay, so piano, I'm gonna use the external key to show you. Okay, so let's choose some nice note, maybe just a good nice riff. How about okay, so let's try this. Oops. So you can redo if you've done it wrongly, no problem. So let's try again. Okay, so let's do this simple one. Okay, now double click. Same thing if I have things that I need to adjust. So for example, oops. Okay, so this part I need to adjust. So what can I do? Okay, so this sounds alright. Now what I need is actually another thing which is very important, that is the sustain. Alright, so what we would do, let's try to find that sustain. Okay, so let me see, where can we get the sustain note control? Okay, pressure, pitch, tempo, sound variation. I think there is these parameters called sustain. Okay, let's try to find that. Where is it? Okay. Okay, now there is two ways to do it. One is, of course, using my pedal. Where's my pedal? Okay, so this is one way I can actually use my pedal to trigger. The other way, if for those of you who want to use sustain but you don't have a pedal, you can use here. Okay, so this is a sustain, which is your tap on your keyboard. Okay, so let's say I want this to have a sustain effect. Okay, so what I'll need to do is basically press this when it is being played and record again. Okay, so let's try this. So this is kind of disaster. Wow, this is not nice. Not nice. I think we shouldn't do that. Okay, so let's not do that. Okay, so maybe we try to change this instead. Let's try to use another one. Maybe this one. Sorry, I think let's try rock piano. Okay, so this sounds a little bit better, right? So let's see if we have a better one. Okay, maybe electric piano. Okay, maybe this will work. Let's try. Wow, this is nicer. Okay, so I will need the sustain if I use this, right? So let's do that again. So let's activate the keyboard, QWERTY keyboard. Okay, record again. So this round I need a sustain, so what I'll need to do is to press the tab. Okay, so by right, I should, change that sustain when it is not the, so that I don't, so you can see from here below there's a sustain over here. Okay, so let me just make some adjustments so that it doesn't sound so bad. Okay, so this one I can actually pull it down. Okay, so that it sounds better. Okay, so I think it should be better. Okay, all right, so finally, not finally, we have 2 more to go. Okay, so let's go and do the acoustic guitar. Okay, so acoustic guitar, let's just do it with my acoustic guitar. Okay, so let's do this. Okay, let's do it. Okay, so now we have the acoustic guitar, of course. Over here, we need to make some adjustment. So what we need to do is I need to have a fade out. So how do I do the fade out? Let me zoom in for you. Okay, so let me zoom in for you. So from here, you can see this triangle. So if you pull a little bit down, it says fade out. Okay. Okay, now let me zoom out a little bit. Go to the front. So you can see from here, it's actually not in time, right? It's not in time. So what can we do? Yeah, we can either leave it or we can chop it. Okay, so let me just solo that. Okay, so I think here we can actually chop it. So if you select the slice tool from here, I can chop here. Let me zoom in a little bit so I can chop here. Okay, let me just take away the quantize, make it 64. Okay, so I chop here. Okay, now I apply the fader. Okay, so I can then move this to the front a little bit more. So here I can chop. Okay, so here I can then delete this part and I move the entire sections to the front a little bit more. Okay, here I can fade out. I can do a fade in here. Okay, so here I can do a fade in, so it sounds a little bit better. Okay, so of course this is not ideal, but we do it on the fly. Okay, so now lastly is the vocal. All right, let me bring out the lyrics. Okay, so how should we do it? I'm not sure, so let's try. I have not done this. This is like literally live, real life, like do it on the fly. Okay, so let's try this. Raindrops falling from the sky, but don't you fret, don't you cry. And the roses are red, blooming bright, filling up the world with your smile. Pretty flowers, happy face, lift your head up. Okay, so I think it's a little bit too much, right? So okay, so I think what we can do is to start from the beginning, so it will be easier. Okay, so let's try again. Raindrops falling from the sky, but don't you fret, don't you cry. Roses of red are blooming bright, filling up the world with your smile. Pretty flowers, happy face, lift your head up and slap high five. Okay, so of course there are a lot of editing needs to be done, but what I wanted to show you is it's not actually difficult, okay, to just do some fun stuff with basics tools. Okay, so let me just chop this. Now, how do you actually chop all this? And so this is a tools that you can use. Let me zoom in for you. Okay, so over here you can see when you are editing. Okay, so you can see these three. Okay, so these three are your friends, but beside that you have a split tool. So the moment you choose a split tool, you can actually go to the portions that you want to split and just click, and it will just slice for you. Okay, so you can click it back and select the part that you want to delete, hit backspace, and then delete it. And of course here I need to fade in a little bit. Okay, so let me zoom out. Okay, so now let's listen from the beginning. Raindrops falling from the sky, but don't you fret, don't you cry. Roses of red are blooming bright, filling up the world with your smile. Pretty flowers, happy face, lift your head up and slap high five. Okay, so this is how the little short jingle is produced. Okay, so we've done it like not really short, okay, but you know, you get it. Now, wow, 1 hour almost. So if you made it over here, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate. So practice is the key. Okay, so you will get better and better. I'll see you next round. Thank you and bye bye.